Hi, I'm Edward Laveri, and welcome to Unity 5 Fundamentals by Pack Publishing. I'm a veteran game designer and developer, and have developed with several different development tools, including Unity 5. I have designed and developed games for desktop computers, the web, and mobile devices. I also have significant experience creating simulation and business software. Over the past several years, I have focused on educational games and have worked with Unity 5 since its release. I have had the pleasure of teaching in higher education for more than 14 years in the areas of computer science and game design and development. In addition, I have published several books, including a few with Pack Publishing. This course will consist of a complete overview of the Unity 5 game engine, including what can be accomplished with it. Our exploration of Unity will include the core engine, as well as new features released with Unity 5. This video provides you with a glimpse of the entire course. In the first section, we will explore game engines with a specific look at Unity 5 and what its capabilities are. You will gain an appreciation for Unity and understand why it is our game engine of choice. Next, in the second section, we'll review the download, installation, and setup steps. There are some important things to consider regarding the installation process, and we'll cover those. In the third section, we will talk about the Unity workflow. You will learn both object-oriented and component-based approaches to establishing your own personal workflow with Unity. Next, we'll walk through the entire Unity 5 interface so you can create your games with great efficiency. We will look at layouts, views, and customizations, as well as other user interface issues and entities. At first, as you can see here, the interface may not appear very inviting, but you will quickly learn mastery of it and be on your way to making great games. In the fifth section, you will learn how to create 3D objects. We will use basic 3D objects, complex 3D objects, as well as player characters that were created using external software. When we work with 3D objects, it helps make our game environment more robust and enjoyable to play. In the last section, we'll explore asset packages. By the end of this course, you'll have a good understanding of game engines, gain an appreciation for the power of Unity 5, have a working license of Unity 5 installed on your computer, understand the Unity workflow, be familiar with the Unity 5 user interface, be able to create and manipulate 3D objects, and understand how to use assets and asset packages. You will not need any previous programming experience or experience with Unity or other game engines in order to benefit from this course. We'll get you up to speed quickly. Hopefully you have a passion for creating 3D games. Let's get started with this exciting learning journey.
Hello and welcome to Unity 5 Fundamentals, downloading and installing Unity. In this section we will visit the Unity website and review the available licenses. Next we will download Unity. Following the download we will install Unity, and finally we will launch Unity to ensure it works on our computer. Let's start by launching our browser and visiting the Unity 3D website. The URL is http://unity3d.com. We are interested in the Get Unity Now button, so let's click that now. Here you will see 4 different licenses available to you. Let's review them. The personal plan is free and is a great way to get started with using Unity. As I scroll further down this page, you can see there are a few features the personal plan is not eligible for, and that's okay. This plan has what we need for this course. The Plus plan includes some additional features. The Pro plan includes all of the features. You'll note that some of them come at an additional cost. Finally, the Enterprise plan is similar to the Pro plan but supports thousands of players across multiple games. The Pro plan only supports 200 concurrent users. Okay, let's scroll back up to the top of the page and click the Download Now button for the personal plan. Here we are presented with a link to download the installer. We can also see 2 other important pieces of information on the screen. First, the system requirements are listed here. As you can see, I am on a computer running Windows. If you're on a Mac, your information will be different. We also see a bit further down the page a reminder about the limitations of the personal plan. This plan cannot be used in certain circumstances. Okay, let's download the installer by clicking the large green button. You can see that the downloader downloaded very quickly. We can run the installer just simply by clicking it. If you receive a security warning, that's okay. We can trust Unity. It's a very large company. So this is the download assistant, and we're going to click Next. We need to accept the terms of the license agreement. Certainly you can read it first and even print it for offline reading. Once you do accept the terms, click Next. And then these are the components that are available to us as part of our installation. You can see that some of them have already been pre-selected. I recommend adding the example project and then clicking Next. Here you'll specify the location of where you want to install Unity. Where you put it is up to you. You can see that the total space required is 3.3 gigabytes, so make sure you have enough space. And once you click Next, the download of Unity and installation will begin. This process could take quite a long time depending on your internet bandwidth, from several minutes to an hour or more. So I'm going to pause this video and resume once my download is completed. Once the download and installation is complete, the download assistant will provide you with this dialog box. You can see here the Launch Unity checkbox is checked, and the Finish button will complete the operation and launch Unity. Now, if you have not previously signed up for an account with Unity, you'll be prompted to create one. It is free, and the steps are very straightforward. So here we have Projects and Getting Started. Getting Started is a video. I'll go back to the Projects tab, and here we can open a new project, an existing project, or again, a new project. So I'll click New. We'll give it a name. I'll call it First Test, and leave the location as defined. We have 3D selected, and we'll click Create Project. We'll go over more about that process in a video later on. Here you can see that Unity did load, and this is the interface. We'll go over that in a later video. Next up, Workflow with Unity. See you there. Hi, welcome to video Workflow with Unity. In this section, we will examine the general processes used to create our game using Unity 3D. Creating games is a complex process, and we need a plan for how we will accomplish the many tasks necessary in order to see our game project to completion. Okay, so let's look at workflows we can use with Unity. In the context of creating games with Unity, our workflow is a set of sequential steps that can be used as a pattern for accomplishing specific tasks. These patterns are repeatable and form the core of some of the more routine tasks associated with our game project. Of course, there are multiple different ways of accomplishing things in Unity, so the workflows we will discuss represent just one pattern. Next, we will look at workflows we will use to create our game in this set of courses. We will start with a basic approach to working with Unity. We will also discuss asset workflows and production workflows. Let's take a look at each of those workflows. One of the things we need to accomplish before we start using Unity is to have a game design. Carpenters, for example, rarely start cutting wood without having a detailed design, or at least a good idea of what they want to build. This holds true for game developers as well. We need to know what we are going to create before we get started. Certainly we will make changes to our design as we start developing, but more than just a general concept is required. Once we have our game at least partially designed, we will need to know what assets we will need for our game. These can include characters, animations, 3D objects, meshes, graphics, textures, audio, and more. This is also a good time to assess what you can accomplish in Unity by yourself and what functions you will need others on your team to perform. Working with assets is our next type of workflow. Assets are visual components used to populate your game world and help it come alive. Assets fall into two basic categories. One's created with Unity, or native assets, and externally created assets. With Unity, we can create basic 3D objects, audio, textures, and even animations. There are more specialized software applications that can be used to create more complex assets. Externally created assets can be brought into your game project with relative ease. In most cases, it is just a matter of dragging the asset file into the Unity interface or populating it in an asset folder. Let's look at one more workflow. Production workflow refers to packing our Unity project and producing the external files in order to provide distribution copies. This enables our games to be played by others. In Unity, we first create a build. If you're not familiar with what that is, do not worry, it will be covered later in the course. When creating a build, there are several decisions you need to make. You'll indicate those decisions in Unity's build dialog. Next, you will add your scenes and, if necessary, rearrange them. In Unity, scenes are game levels. After your scenes are added in the order you want them, you will select a distribution platform for this build. The final step is to save the build, which results in Unity generating the game. Next up, exploring the Unity 5 interface. I'll see you there. Welcome to Unity 5 Fundamentals, exploring the Unity 5 interface. In this section, exploring the Unity 5 interface section, we will walk through the user interface with special emphasis on the various layouts, different views, and tools. As you will discover, many of Unity's tools are accessible both via the menu system and via icons. We will also cover customization of the user interface so you can configure Unity the way that best fits your style and working rhythm. By the end of this section, you will have Unity personalized and ready for use. This video consists of a walkthrough of the Unity 5 user interface. Our walkthrough of the Unity 5 user interface will focus on three primary components. First, we will discuss layouts and then look at the different views associated with the user interface. Finally, we will cover the Unity 5 transform tools. Okay, let's launch Unity. Layouts refer to the arrangement of views or windows on the screen. We'll talk about views a bit later. To change a layout, we simply click on the Layout button located in the far right region of the interface. Let's look at each predefined layout. The 2x3 layout provides the scene and game views stacked on the left and 3 columns for the hierarchy, project, and inspector views. The 4-split layout provides 4 different views of the same scene. All other visible views are located to the right. The tall layout includes a tall view of the scene view. The wide layout includes a wide view of the scene view. Additional views are located at the bottom and the right regions of the screen. The default layout is similar to the wide layout, but centers the scene view with additional views located to the left, right, and bottom. I've mentioned several views, so let's look at those now. The scene view, depicted here with an automobile, is our viewport into the visual aspect of our games. Unity scenes are game levels. The game view is the interface used to test your game inside the development environment. To access the game view, we simply use the play button at the top center of the interface. As you can see, this game level or scene is playable inside the development environment. This is a quick way to test during development. The hierarchy view shown here on the left provides an organized view of every object in a scene. When you select an object in this view, the object is selected in the scene view and the inspector view is populated. We'll talk about the inspector view shortly. The project view provides you with a file structure that contains all of your game's components. This will include objects, art files, audio, scripts, and more. The project view's file structure is based on your computer's file structure. So if you want to make changes to the structure, I recommend you do it here in the project view. The inspector view reveals an object's properties, giving you access to make changes. You will spend a lot of time working in this view. Now, let's look at some tools. The transform tools are the tools you will use to interact with objects in the scene view. There are 5 buttons, each representing a separate transform tool. The first tool is the hand tool or view tool. It is selected by clicking on the hand icon. You'll see that my cursor turned to a hand so I know what mode I am in. With this tool selected, we can zoom in and out using the mouse scroll wheel. When we left click, we can pan around the scene. When we right click, we can look around based on our current position. The second tool is the Translate tool. The icon representing this tool is the one with 4 arrows. When we click on an object with this tool, we're presented with 3 gizmos, one for each axis, X, Y, and Z. We can click and drag these gizmos to move the objects. Next is the Rotate tool. The icon is of 2 rotating arrows. You can see that a selected object will have 3 color rings, one for each axis. We can click these rings and move the mouse to change an object's rotation on each axis. The fourth tool is the Transform tool, indicated by the line and block gizmos. With this tool selected, you can click on a gizmo and drag it to make it larger or smaller. Finally, the Rect or Rectangle tool is represented by a rectangle icon with intersecting points. This tool can be used to move, resize, and rotate an object in the scene view. This is a versatile tool that you should spend time experimenting with. As a recap of our walkthrough of Unity's interface, we looked at predefined layouts, which were 2x3, 4 split, tall, wide, and default. We also looked at views, which were scene view, game view, hierarchy view, project view, and inspector view. And finally, we covered the transform tools, which are the hand or view tool, translate tool, rotate tool, transform tool, and the rect or rectangle tool. Coming up next, customizing the user interface. This video consists of customizing the user interface. When we talk about customizing the user interface, we're talking about showing or not showing views. The views involved are the scene view, hierarchy view, project view, and inspector view. More than just selecting which views to display, interface customization includes selecting and configuring a layout. The primary benefit of customizing our Unity user interface is to help increase efficiency and convenience while we work. As you become more familiar with Unity, you will likely want certain views in specific locations. You'll also want them to have a specific relative size. Shortly, I will show you how to customize the interface. Once our changes are made, we will save our work, exit Unity, and relaunch Unity to validate our work. Okay, let's launch Unity. My Unity user interface is currently in 2x3 mode. I'm going to switch that to wide. I like to have a large screen view, and you can see that our scene view is quite large. The inspector view on the right is sufficient for what I want. The hierarchy, just going to make it a little bit more narrow. And the project, I want to use the slider so that we can see more of the content. Now, as I contemplate this, I think that this just might not work at all. So let me continue to resize things. I'm going to move the hierarchy tab up to the left. You can see it's just drag and drop. Show some sample content so I have an idea what it might look like. And I can put the project view, leave it right where it is. I just move the assets, which is a folder view under the project. So if I go to materials, you'll see that the content changes. So I like the way that works. So I'm just going to make the scene view just a little bit wider. There we go. And let's see what the inspector view looks like. I think that looks pretty good. So the goal is every time I come into Unity, this is the view that I will see. So I'm going to go back to the layout button in the upper right hand corner. I'm going to click Save Layout, and I'm going to call it my default mode, and I'm going to click Save. Okay, so now I'm going to exit Unity. Okay, I exited Unity and relaunched it, and it automatically came back to this mode. So I'm going to go to the 2x3 mode just to switch it up, and then we're going to select my default mode, and you can see it goes right back to where we were. So it's simple as that. You can change your mode as you gain more experience with the interface, and you will pick what works ideally for you. In this section, we walked through the user interface. We looked at layouts, we looked at views, and we looked at the transform tools. Also in this section, we covered customizing the user interface so that you could tailor the Unity 5 user interface to your needs. Next up, creating 3D objects. I'll see you there. Hi, welcome to Unity 5 Fundamentals, Creating 3D Objects. This section consists of hands-on experience with creating basic shapes, customizing 3D objects, and scripting 3D objects. In this video, we will explore basic shape creation. Our discussion of 3D objects will include steps to create 3D objects using only Unity 5 and no external tools. We will also make modifications to the objects we create by modifying their size, shape, position, and orientation. Finally, we will manipulate our 3D objects to become familiar enough to start creating 3D objects for games we build with Unity. Okay, let's launch Unity. I created a new project and called it Basic Shapes. You can see here in Scene View the only things that are present is a main camera and a directional light. Both of these objects are located in the hierarchy view as well. We will leave those alone for now and start creating our 3D objects. We're going to start by clicking the Game Object menu item and then 3D Object. And then here you can see over to the right a list of all the 3D objects we can create by using Unity. We're concerned with the first 5 on this list, so let's create those now. I'm going to click Cube and a cube will appear. I'm just going to use my left mouse button, click that object and move it over to the left to get it out of the way, and we'll deal with that again a little bit later. Again, Game Object, 3D Object, Sphere. Move that one over to the left as well. Game Object, 3D Object, Capsule. That one will move over to the right. Game Object, 3D Object, Cylinder. Again, move that one over to the right. And finally, Game Object, 3D Object, Plane. Now leave the plane selected. You can see a couple of shadows from some of the objects already instantiated because we have directional light in the scene. Our plane is selected and we see 3 widgets, red, green, and blue, each one for a different axis, X, Y, or Z. We have the translate tool selected, so clicking on any of those gizmos and dragging will move the 3D object along that axis. If we change the transform tool to the scale tool, which is the 4th from the left, you can see the gizmos change to little boxes. Now when we click and drag, we will actually change the scale of the object. And I'm going to make this bigger, simulate that as a floor. And now I'm going to go back to the translate tool so I can move it just a little bit more to get better coverage. There we go. Now let's select the cube. Select the cube. I'm going to click and drag it. You can see you have full control of where it is. You can use the gizmos. And we'll move it just so we can see the shadow. I can click on the orb here, and if I click the rotate tool, you can see that the gizmos are now bands around it, and I can rotate it. Not that it makes a tremendous amount of difference depending on the face of the orb, because it is a circle or a ball. You can also see over on the right side in the inspector view, watch the transform section as I rotate this 3D object. You can see that it dynamically changes. Of course, if you know the values that you want, you can type them in there directly. And here's our capsule. And when I select it, you can see that half of it is under the ground, and we'll fix that. And I also want to point out that in the hierarchy view, you can see that the default names were assigned, and there it says capsule. And when I selected it, it was also selected in hierarchy view. Over in the inspector view, I'm going to change the name of the capsule and call it force field. We can use capsules as invisible force fields for our characters. I hit return, and you can see that it was updated in the hierarchy view. So now we're going to use the translate tool, again the second button from the left, and we're going to raise that above the ground. There we go. And we'll scoot it back a little bit to get it out of the way. So now we can use the hierarchy view. Select the cube, the sphere, force field, the cylinder. Let's bring that over into view. And then the plane. Now with the plane selected, I'm going to go to the inspector view, and under mesh renderer, I click materials, and then here it says default material for element 0, and I'm going to click the little circle to the right of that, and I'm going to pick this first black color as a material, and you can see that it colored the mesh. If I click off of it, you can see that we've covered things up, so we need to lower it down, and we're doing that using the translate tool to make sure that we're beneath all the elements. And I'm going to zoom out so I can scoot it underneath. And it can take a little while to become used to 3D space, but you will, in no time at all, get lots of practice and become very good at it. And there are the objects that we created. In this video, we created basic shapes with the native tools. We created a cube, a sphere, a capsule, a cylinder, and a plane. Using the transform tools, we modified and manipulated the 3D objects. As a review, we used the hand tool, the translate tool, rotate tool, scale tool, and the rect tool. Next up, customizing 3D objects. See you there. Hi, welcome to Unity 5 Fundamentals, Customizing 3D Objects. In this video, we will explore various methods of customizing 3D objects. Specifically, we will apply materials to 3D objects using two different techniques. We will also demonstrate how to customize the shadow parameters of any given 3D object. Let's launch Unity. You can see here I have loaded sample content that comes bundled with Unity. We have a car object in our scene view. And over in the hierarchy view on the left, I'm going to expand car, sky car, and I'm going to select sky car body. And you can see here in the scene view, the car body has been selected. Now over in inspector view, we see a section that says mesh renderer. And under that we see materials. For element 0, you can see that sky car body gray is currently selected. And when I click in scene view off of the car, you can see that the car is indeed gray. So I'll reselect that, and again under materials, I'm going to click this small circle to the right of that text box. That'll bring up a list of materials that we have available to us. Currently the sky body gray is selected. We can select teal smooth and then close the select material dialog box. In scene view, click off of the car and you can see it is now teal. Let's quickly run that in game mode to ensure that our changes stick. There's game mode, and indeed our vehicle is teal. Now how else can we do this? We can select guy car body. Again, I'm in hierarchy view. Under materials in the inspector view, I can click the small circle. I'm going to pick a different color. Here's a pink smooth. I'm just going to click that and drag it onto the car, and see immediately it changed. You can do individual components of the vehicle that way. And you can see as I select a different segment of the car, we now have two different elements, 0 and 1. We'll select the second one and we'll pick that teal. Click off and we can continue to change elements. Now I'm going to, in hierarchy view, under sky car, select sky car body. And in scene view you can see there's a shadow, and that is being emanated off of the car because in the inspector view under mesh renderer we have cast shadows on. When I turn that off, you see that's gone. Turn that back on. And then receive shadows, if that's selected, it can receive shadows on itself from other light sources and things that block the light source. And that's an individual 3D object decision that you'll make during the development process. In this video, we looked at two different ways to change a 3D object's materials and change the ability for an object to cast and receive shadows. Next up, scripting 3D objects. See you there. Hi, welcome to Unity 5 Fundamentals, Scripting 3D Objects. In this video, we will start with a new level in Unity. We will then create 3D objects and script their behaviors. We will also create a player controller and scripts so the player controller can be moved with standard keyboard input. We will also add collision scripts. Let's launch Unity. You can see here we have a blank canvas, a new level in Unity. We're going to start by adding a plane for ground. So we're going to select Game Object, 3D Object, Plane. And there it is. We're going to change the size just a bit to make it bigger. And next we will add two more game objects. So game object, 3D object, cube. What we want to do to the cube is just make sure it's slightly above the ground, and we'll slide it out of the way. I'm going to add one more cube, and we'll change that size just so we can clearly tell the difference. Change the size and shape. Now what we have are two objects in the ground, technically three objects. So let's create some material so that we can differentiate between these objects. I'm going to select Assets, Create, Material. I'm going to call this Green. And then in the inspector, I'm going to click the first color box. We'll pick a green color. We're going to do this again. Assets, Create, Material. Call this one Blue. And then inspector, we'll pick a blue color. Close the color box and one more. Assets, Create, Material. Call this one Red. And we'll select a red color in inspector. Now let's click the green material in the project view and drag it to the plane. And there we go. And now we're going to do the same thing to the cubes. We're going to put the blue material, applying it to one cube, and the red material to the other. And just to make things interesting, we'll change the orientation of each of these cubes so they have just an additional differentiator. There we go. Now if we were to put this in game mode, we wouldn't have anything but a static image. A couple of shadows because we have lighting. So now let's add script to rotate these two cubes. Take this out of game mode. I'm going to select the first cube, and then in inspector I'm going to click Add Component. And in the component list on the bottom you'll see New Script. I'm going to call this Rotate Me. And we have two languages available to us, C# or JavaScript. We'll pick C#. And next I will click the Create and Add button. And now you can see in the project view we have Rotate Me, which is a script. If we want to click on the All Scripts under Favorites, we'll just see the script. So there's Rotate Me. I'm going to double click it, and that will open up our editor. And now we're able to edit the code. And what we want to do is we want to call transform.rotate, and we want to put it in the update method, which is called every frame. So I'm just going to paste the code in there. And these values can be anything you want them to be. And I'll just make them 10, 20, and 30. Save this, and we'll go back to Unity. Now one of the cubes has that rotate me script associated with it, so let's test it by going in game mode. And that rotates. So let's add a script to the other one. So we're going to select the other cube. We're going to go add component in the inspector view. And now we have an additional component listed, and that's scripts. Before we only had new script. So when we select scripts, we'll see all the scripts available to us on this project. And we have rotate me. So I clicked it, and now it's associated with it. And now when we test the game in game mode, we can see that they both rotate. Okay, it's not terribly impressive, but it is a good demonstration of how to easily add code to your 3D objects. Let's take this one step further. Let's go to Game Object, 3D Object. Let's add a sphere this time. And we'll make sure that's above the ground. And let's move it over here so we can see it better. Now we're going to make this a player controller, which means we have to do two things. First, we have to add a physics component known as rigid body. Okay, so we did that. And now we can apply a script to it. So you can see the inspector view is getting kind of crowded, and we can collapse each component. That way we only see the ones we're dealing with. Now I'm going to click Add Component, New Script. We're going to call this Player Controller. We'll leave C# as our language, and we'll select Create and Add. And now in the project view, I'm going to double click that. And here's our editor where we can add our code. And here I've pasted some code into this script file. You can see here that we start with a public variable known as speed, and when you make a variable public in your script, you'll be able to edit it in the inspector view, which is very handy. And then the rest of this code basically takes input from the keyboard and then puts it into vector format and then multiplies the vector by the speed and moves it to that value. So let's save this. And we'll go back into Unity. We want to select the sphere. And you can see in the inspector view under player controller script, we have our new variable speed. I'm going to change that to 4. And now let's test the game. Put it in game mode. There are two cubes rotating, and now with the W, A, S, and D keys on the keyboard, I can rotate the sphere, and I can run into these cubes. Alright, so we'll take this out of game mode. And the next thing we want to do is to add a script that is triggered anytime the sphere runs into one of those cubes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select each cube, and we're going to add a tag to it. You can see I'm doing that in Inspector under Tags and Layers. And we're going to call it Cube. Now when I select each cube, I can select in the Inspector view under Tag, I can select Cube. We'll do that for both of these. Cube. And now we'll go back into the player controller code, and under the fix update, we'll add a new method called onTriggerEvent. And here you can see that we're detecting if the game object that it collides with has the tag of cube, then make it inactive or set the active value to false, which will make it disappear. So let's save this, go back to Unity, and we have to do one more thing. What we want to do is select each cube and make sure that under Box Collider is trigger is selected. Do that, and now we're ready to test this in game mode. So we should see three things. The first two are cubes rotating, and the second is using the keyboard WASD. When we run into a cube with our sphere, it should disappear. There we go. And it did work. And we'll take this out of game mode. In this section, we covered how to create 3D objects. We created a cube, a sphere, a capsule, and a plane. Also in this section, we made modifications to 3D objects we created. To demonstrate how to customize 3D objects, we experimented with a sky car that came bundled with Unity. Lastly, we introduced how to script 3D objects. Next section, working with asset packages. Hi, welcome to Unity 5 Fundamentals, working with asset packages. This section includes an overview of asset packages and hands-on experience with assets to include creating, editing, and managing them. This section also includes a field trip to the Unity Asset Store. In this video, we will explore asset packages. Our discussion of asset packages will include a look at what asset packages are and what they are used for. We will also look at the basics of assets and look at the different types of assets. So what is an asset package? An asset package is a package or group of assets. They are organized in a folder structure. Packages allow us to manage a group of assets at the same time. They also provide for a convenient method of importing and exporting to and from our games. Before we go any further, let's talk about assets. Assets are usable game objects. They can consist of scripts, prefabs, materials, sprites, animations, and more. Really, anything you can use in your game is an asset. Unity allows us to create, edit, and delete assets. We can also import and export them. There are four basic types of assets. First, we can create assets from within Unity. These are referred to as being natively created. Unity also includes standard assets such as cameras, characters, effects, particle systems, and more. These are common game assets used in nearly every Unity game. Unity Premium assets are professionally created assets available for a fee. These are available to us via the Unity Asset Store and are created by Unity. The final category of assets is third-party assets. In other words, those created by someone other than your game design and development team or Unity. These assets are primarily available in the Unity Asset Store and include free and premium content. As a side note, you should be mindful of any copyright restrictions associated with Unity and third-party assets. Up next, working with assets. Hi, welcome to Unity 5 Fundamentals, working with assets. In this video, we will examine how to work with assets. Specifically, we will see how to organize assets, how to create assets, and how to export and import assets and asset packages. Let's launch Unity. Here you can see I launched Unity and I loaded a standard assets example project that comes bundled with the latest version of Unity. I've also modified the layout so that you can see more of the assets center screen. On the left we have hierarchy view. In the center we have an expanded project view with an inspector view on the right, and in the lower left hand corner we have a scene view and game view. Let's put our focus on the project tab, and under the favorites area is assets. You can see assets is indicated by a folder. That suggests that it is actually a folder that exists on your hard drive. And under assets you have three subfolders. We can expand any of these folders by clicking the little triangle to the left, and we'll do that for standard assets. When I expand standard assets, you see a list of additional file folders. Let's look at vehicles. You can see under vehicles there are aircraft and car. We'll expand car. Under car we see audio, materials, models, prefabs,
scripts, shaders, and textures. We'll select materials. And then in the pane in the right, we can see several different materials. As I click on these, you'll notice that in Inspector View, they're populated. There's a particle for burnout, some white smoke, color gray for the body of the car, white for the car, and then some covers for gray and white, and you can see additional ones. Now let's say that we wanted to create candy apple red material for this car. We can create an asset, and one of the things we want to do first is ideally select where we want that asset to show up. So we are under car materials. That's where we want our asset. So now we're going to go to the top menu, click assets, create material. We'll call this candy apple red and hit return. Now with the candy apple red material selected, in Inspector View, we'll pick a red color. Now we can relocate these assets. Let's say we decided that we want a red aircraft, not a car. We understood the requirements wrong. So I'm going to take candy apple red from the car materials folder and drag it to the materials folder under aircraft. It's just a simple click and drag. And now you can see it's no longer under car materials. And under aircraft materials, our candy apple red shows up. Now it's important to notice that when we click on any of these assets, we can have access to them in the Inspector View and change many other components of it. It's a lot more assets than just materials. We can look at characters, for example, a third-person character animation. We can see a series of animation files. There are scripts. Now these scripts here that you see are under third-person character. If we were to go to favorites and select all scripts, we'll see that we actually have quite a few scripts as part of this project. Now what if we want to share? Let's say that we want to share our aircraft. Well, there are a couple different ways to do this. I'm just going to right-click on aircraft and go to Export Package. That'll bring up a dialog and it'll list all of our assets. And it's asking us what items do we want to import. We don't want to export the other, so we're going to deselect that. And I'm going to collapse it so that we don't see it. We don't want the sample scenes, and we'll collapse that. Now under standard assets, we don't want 2D, we don't want cameras, we don't want characters, we don't need our cross-platform input, or effects, or environment, or the particle systems. We also don't need the utilities. Now, under vehicles, we do want the aircraft, so we'll leave that selected. And under aircraft, you can see quite a few materials. I'm going to collapse that for now, but leave it selected. And we're going to deselect car and collapse that. So now you can see the only thing we have selected are the aircraft related assets, and it's quite a few. Now at the bottom of this dialog, we're going to click the export button, and here it'll ask us where we want to put it. And it's going to save it as a Unity package, which is a compressed file format that Unity understands. And then we would click save, and then it would save it. I'm going to click cancel, and then I'm going to exit the exporting package. If we want to import a package, we go to Assets and Import Package. Here we can specify what kind of package we want to import. We could also select Custom Package. Up next, Unity Asset Store. Hi, welcome to Unity 5 Fundamentals, Unity Asset Store. In this video, we will take a field trip to the Unity Asset Store. We'll also look at what the Unity Asset Store is, how to access it, and how to find content. We will also discuss content licensing and demonstrate how to get content from the Unity Asset Store into your game. The Unity Asset Store houses a dynamic library of game assets, both free and premium. These assets include ones created by Unity as well as third parties. Some people and organizations have made a business out of selling their assets in the Unity Asset Store. When you obtain assets in the Asset Store, you can generally use them even for commercial purposes. Of course, the world has access to these same assets, so to create valued commercial games, you'll want to use unique assets. As you'll see a little bit later, you'll need to have a Unity account to obtain content from the Unity Asset Store. Okay, let's launch Unity. I have Unity launched with just a test empty game level. And to access the Asset Store from within Unity, which is the preferred method, click on Window and then scroll down to Asset Store. As you can see, you can also hit Control 9. That'll open the Asset Store in a window. Look all the way over to the right of that window. I'm going to click the little down arrow by the menu and click Maximize. This gives us a greater view of the Asset Store. I'm going to click the first thing that comes up, and here it is, Android Goodies. On the left, you can see that it comes from an organization known as Dead Mosquito Games. It costs us $8, and it has 10 reviews. You can click Buy Now, and down here is a little bit of information that's pretty important. It talks about advantages, features. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, it'll give you a list of all the items in the package, and you can click on most of these and see a preview in the preview window. That's also very handy when you're looking at animations and when you want to hear audio files. I'm going to scroll back up all the way up top. You can see at the top of this Unity Asset Store is a search bar, so we can type keywords in search, and we'll do that in just a moment. Also, over in the right hand is a list view, which we can look at, say, for example, 3D models, characters, animals, mammals. And then here you see several of them pop up. So here's a horse for heroes. I'm going to click on that to see what it's about. This particular asset has not been rated yet, and it comes with a few videos so you can preview the animations, which is a nice feature. And it shows what version of Unity was used when the content was submitted. I'm going to click the Home button. And here, Unity 5. Let's pick that. And this is a terrain package. And it gives you great details of what's there. It has online documentation, a forum. So some vendors really support their game assets well. Go back to Home. And I'm going to click on Unity Essentials. And here's the Courtyard. This one comes from Unity Technologies, and it's free. You can scroll down to see the details. Here it says the demo runs on high-end PCs. You can reuse any project assets free of charge as long as you conform to the terms of the Asset Store end user license agreement. So you should read that. Sometimes you'll see notes in this area that restricts commercial use of the assets, so you must be very mindful of that. And I'm going to scroll down again and see the different assets that come with it. Quite a few. This is one of those ones that is of general high quality because it comes from Unity Technologies. Now let's try a search. Let's say you want to search for corn. Kind of random, but Here's some corn stalks, $27. Unicorns, some low poly fruits and vegetables. So you can see that 318 items came up. You can also see on the right there's top free and top premium and then latest. So here's the top free standard assets from Unity. You can see Unity does a great job of providing developers with content to use. And here you can see nearly 2,000 people reviewed it. And it's a 5 out of 5 star rating. Now if we were to click download, see that we must log in with our Unity account. So I'll do that now. And you can see now I'm logged in. My icon and avatar are on the top right. So I'll click download again. And you can see it just starts immediately. So it's a pretty simple concept of downloading assets from the Unity Asset Store. Once you're in Unity, you can just use the import assets to upload any content that you retrieved from the Unity Asset Store. It's a great way to test Unity using sample content. There's plenty of free content, so it's a great way to get started with Unity before you're starting to develop your own content and avoid frustration. Now the message says that the project import completed. You say import. It first decrypted the package and now it's decompressing. You can see here the import Unity package dialog popped up, and by default everything is selected. Just scrolling down very quickly, everything has a check mark, everything's new, and I'm going to click import. And the process is very quick. The messages are very descriptive, importing each type of asset. Now here you can see that Unity is prompting us that an API update is required, and you can read that text and decide what's best for you. And now I will close the asset store. And you can see that now we have all those assets available to us in this game. And that's because we selected import after we selected download. Do not always have to do both steps.
In this section, we'll start with an overview of asset packages. Next, you will learn how to work with assets with hands-on activities. Finally, we will explore the Unity Asset Store. This exploration will consist of an explanation, store visit, and importing assets from the Asset Store.